yeah, let me record this RIS because it might be useful. So what we're going to do, we will go and we'll go and create a resource directory. So I'll go and create a new directory here, call it a resources directory. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this as a root for resources. So the root for resources, I'm going to say, select this one and make it mark as a root for resource. I already marked it like here. So now I can include some, so let me open them on my disk, okay? So I can open it in my Explorer. And now I can place some, some images into this. So let me go and put some images that I'm going to use. So I have, okay, so maybe I go and put these images in there. Okay. So now I have these images in my always add in my resources folder. So I can go and say set icon, and I can say new image icon, and this is the graphics object that that represents the icon. Image is an icon, and I have to provide the path to this image icon. So the path is, I can go and write down the path like manually, right? But I can, I don't want to write my path manually. I want to write it dynamically. So I'll go and say get class, get resource, and okay, and I have to say it's in the resources folder, and it's in the like bug.gif file, right? I can set an icon. I can set the alignment, text alignment, horizontal alignment of my this one. So I can say a label. So what I want it on the left side, right? Oh wait. It's a get, sorry. So I can say left and so forth. So I can go and do all that stuff here. I can go and modify anything I want. I can even set the font, set font, and then provide some font here. I can say font. What is the font family? Let's say Arial. And so I think here I can say I want a bold font, and the size I want it to be 12, right? I can set the font, and then once I kind of embellished my label, I set all of its properties, right? What I can do is I can simply add my label one into my window, and I can do the same for the second label. So I can go and set it as a second label, and I can say this is my second label, which is going to be placed after that, and maybe use a different icon. Maybe it will be aligned to the right, and maybe it will be italic. Okay, and okay, cool. So now I actually added two controls. I created the, I can also add the button. So let me go and create the button, greet button. So this greet button is a J button, and I can go and set its text to let's say hello, something like that. And again, I can have all the different properties of it and so forth. Now I add this particular button as well. I add the label. I add label 2. I have to add here. And I add all of these controls. I create them, I embellish them, like decorate them, set their properties, and then I add them. It's basically the same structure over and over again. It's again imperative style, right? So I just do it things in a sequential way, right? And in a swing that basically happens this way. Okay. Yeah, yeah, someone corrected me. I said add label 2. That's good. Okay, good. So now I created this window. Now I wanted to show it to the user. So how can I do it? I go back to my app class. So let me comment this out. And what should I do? I should go and create it, right? So I defined a class. Now I have to instantiate it. So I call it main window, and I call it label frame. Right? And my main window. The first thing that I need to do is, again, every time when I do my main window, I have to specify this thing. So the reason I have to set the default close operation to exit on close is that in GUI applications, as soon as I go and create a GUI component in this main function, the GUI will go and create, the Java will go and create a parallel thread. It's a parallel function that is running parallel to this method. So and the reason why it's doing like this is because in this particular main thread, you go and exit the code, right? So it goes and creates this object, and then it goes and sets. So let me continue this one. I'm going to set the title here. I can call it label app. I don't need to set the title because it's already set. Maybe I'll set the size. So set the size. So I'm going to say maybe 200 to 200. And I'll go and say set visibility to true, right? So this is basically the code that is necessary for me to show this label window, right? But so if you remember from your console apps, what happens if you reach this point in your console app, this end of this main function? What happens? Can someone answer me?
Program finish.
Yeah, exactly. Your main function finishes, your program ends, right? So that's how we kind of used to think, right? Again, if your main program doesn't spawn any thread, okay, some additional thread, there are no other threads running in parallel, then your program will finish. Again, we'll talk about multi-threading, so no worries if you're thinking, oh, what is thread and how you can go and create new threads inside the same method. But the point is, if you have in your typical console app that we've been doing so far, you just have a one single function thread, all right? It's getting executed, and it finishes its execution, your program exits. Got it? But in GUI case, it is not the same, because the GUI is a slightly different way of programming. Because it's not like the console apps. Why? Because in console apps, everything is sequential, right? So it's for everything from top to the bottom, right? So it goes like line by line like this, and you know what's going to happen next, and the next, and the next. So you basically have an idea about how your program is going to run, right? In UI, in GUI programming, you don't know the order of your program's execution. Instead, what you do is you go and write some events, right? So you're going to write anticipate certain events that may happen inside your program, and then you go and write something that may some logic that handles those events, right? So it's called an event-driven programming because your program's flow is driven by the events that are triggered by the users. So the button click is an event, text input is an event, right? A mouse move is an event, or drag and drop is an event. And all these actions that users do on your application, these are events, and they can be processed and handled, right? So and there is no particular sequence of actions that you kind of expecting here. You're expecting the user to define this sequence of actions, and for each event you would like to do some kind of operation. So this is the reason you have a separate thread in your if you go and create this GUI component, the Java will go and spawn a separate thread, which is different from the main thread, which is called a Gui thread. And this Gui thread, okay, you don't see its implementation, it's already done there, but you have to understand that there is a Gui thread. And it could be something similar to some while loop or something, which is polling which is like waiting for certain actions to happen. And if these actions happen, they just know how to process it. Okay, so it's not something that gets, it's some sort of an infinite loop running behind, and it's not going to finish on its own. It's not going to end on its own. Okay, so your program might finish executing this function, but it will not finish executing its GUI thread function, and it will still be hanging around. You got it? On the side. You got it?
Yes.
So, and if you go and close the window, you press X here and you close the window, the default behavior for window close is basically setting its visibility to false. So basically hiding it. This object will still reside inside this GUI thread. I got it. This main window object will be residing inside that GUI thread, and it will still be living there, even if the user doesn't see it. Okay? So as a result, if you don't do this, your window will be hanging in the background and your program will be still running. So the user will be frustrated if they go and open the task manager, let's say, and they see your program still running, even if there is no window that it displays. Okay, so you don't want this kind of frustration from the user's side, because your program could be occupying memories and processes. So you don't want that happen. You want to exit with your main window. So as soon as the user closes this main window, what you want to do is you want to halt this, okay, GUI thread that is running in the behind. You want to close, you want to exit from that loop as well. So once you exit from that loop, this particular GUI thread that's running in parallel will also stop, and then your program exits. You got it?
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the reason why, that's why you have to go and set it like this. And if you set it like this, then you say, okay, this is my main window. If user goes and closes this main window, I want my entire GUI thread to be stopped. Okay? Is it clear?
Yes.
So let me go and start this application. And so now we got it. And so this is a simple window. Okay, and you can see I can resize it. It's like a Windows, and I can see some okay, so I can see some icons next to these labels, and I can even click the button I want. So basically everything is working appropriately live. So there's no problem in building this kind of label app. So let me go and do this exactly same thing using the Swing UI designer. I don't need to go and write all that programming here. I don't have to do all this messy stuff here because again, it's like you just write things and you don't know how it looks until you go and press this compile button, right? In a GUI designer, you can see how it's going to look even without going and running your application. So it's very easy thing to build. So let me go and create a new form. So I'll call Swing UI Designer GUI form, and okay, and I'll say label form or label frame 2, right? Okay, so I'll just set it as a 2. Okay, so now it goes and opens this editor to me with its root container called jpanel. So I'll call it root pane or root pane, root panel or something. And then I can set which layout manager I want. So I want flow layout. So I'll set the flow layout. And all I need to do is I just need to go and drag and drop some elements. I go and drag and drop the label from this palette here, and I can go and write, this is my first label, and I can go and set the icon. So again, I have to select the icon from the resources. So I go and select the icon, and I can control everything, right? I can control the horizontal alignment. So I can say right and so forth, and or I can say left, and if I say left, the icon is here, and so forth. So I can go and modify all the properties. I can go and set whichever font I want. Maybe I want the font Arial, okay, and I want a style which is, let's say, bold, and I want the size of 12, let's say, right? So I can go and do this, and here we go, right? And I can go and drag and drop another label here, or I can even drag and drop the button and give a text called say hello and so forth. So now I got this form, right? So it's pretty easy, you guys. You have to agree with this. It's easier than just going and typing all that code, right? All I need to do is just drag and drop things and then set some properties on the left hand. Okay, now how I'm going to display this form on my window, on my app class. But before we go and do something on the app class, what we need to do is we have to look into our label frame here. It goes and creates us 2 files. One is a form file, which basically contains information about the way how your control should be organized. And then you got some Java class file. This is the Java file which defines a class. And you can see that it basically has all the whichever thing that you name. So I name it as greeting button. I can name this label as, for example, label 1. I can name this one as label 2. Again, I can leave them unnamed too, but if I name them, then I'm going to have some variables here, and these variables can be used to do some further operations with them. So the first thing that I need to do with this class is I have to write it extends a JFrame. So this is a form, right? Now I want to convert my form into some window, some sort of a window. So how do I do this? I normally inherit from JFrame. And in the constructor, all I need to do is, so now if you go into your form, you know that like your root panel contains all your controls here, right? It contains label 1, label 2, label and greeting button. And this is kind of a root panel for this form, right? And you can put some other panels here, which are part of the root panel. And within those panels, you can go and create all that stuff. Okay, so so this root panel is available to you. So what you need to do is you need to add this root panel into your window, right? So this you just created a window. You're extending JFrame. So inside this one, you have to first give some title to your window. You can call it label to app. And then you have to say add to root panel. So what did you do? What did you do is you just took this root panel and you added into the container of your the root container of your JFrame. So any JFrame has its own root container. Okay, you can get this root container by by like say get set content pane. So you can go and say content pane root panel. You can do it this way too. This will replace the set content pane will replace the root panel JFrame's own JPanel that is responsible for containing all the elements. It will replace it with this panel. If you say it like this, if you add, then this particular root panel will be added to the native JPanel of the JFrame, right? So the JFrame contains some JPanel. A root panel will be added into this as a child, okay? So you can do this one or that one, up to you. I mean, I prefer going it this way because it kind of, I mean, if you go and set certain properties for the JFrame and its root panel, you're not kind of overriding all of these things. So all these things will still be valid. All you're doing is simply adding this root panel into this one. Okay, so once you did this thing, what you can do is you can simply say now labeled JFrame 2, right? So, and everything will remain the same. And note that this has been designed, this particular frame has been designed using, yeah, it's look a little bit messy here, but maybe it's bold in the kerning thing. But I mean, it's kind of more or less the same, okay? You got it?
Yes.
So now how do I attach the event handler to this button? So I want this button to do something when maybe I want it to say hello to me, right? So, and he needs to collect my user name. So how do I do this? So I add a text box, a text field, and I call it name text field. So in Java, you just type in okay, the type of the control after this one. Again, it's you can use particular nomenclature. For example, I can use a nomenclature like this, and it's particularly easier to understand. And this one I can go and write down btn greeting. So this is kind of if you're doing a GUI programming, this is the style of defining variables, okay? Because these are just variables, right? And they have a particular type, but you just want to know, when you're dealing with these variables, you want to know what is their type. If this is a text box, if this is a button, or if this is a label or something like that. So what you do is you just simply go and append some sort of a prefix, which defines what sort of control it is, right? So this is just a convention. Again, you can come up with your own nomenclature for this particular labels. I mean, I kind of used to doing things like this. So I'll go and create a button greeting like this. So now what I need to do is I would like to collect the data. Let me go and set the width for that. So I can go and set the width for it, right? For this label, for this text there. So where is the size of it? So it needs to have a size. So I'd like to have maybe 100, right? Maybe a little bit bigger. and I got a label, and label, let me go in case, call it name. So what I want is I want the user to type in something here, and then if I press say hello, it basically displays, or maybe it shows hello here. So let me put it here. It says hello, with the box says hello to me. Okay. No, it doesn't show the. I mean, it can show the it can show the message box to me like a dialog, but I want to change this the value of it, this one. So I can pack it. Pack means just adjust the size of this window to the size of the controls within it. Okay, so now I got my window. Let me save it. Now I want to handle this particular say hello operation. So I can do it in two ways. Again, I can do the same thing by just calling this create listener option. Okay, or I can do it here in manually. So first, let me show you how to do things manually. So I have a button called greetings, and I can say add action listener here. And I say action listener. So this is an interface. I'm creating an anonymous class which implements this interface. This is the way I can create anonymous classes, okay, instances of an anonymous class. This class implements action interface. That's why I have to go and write down the method that has to respond to this click event. So what I want to do here, so I want to collect the name from where? From my text box. And then I want to set my first label, text, to that's it, right? So I basically defined an action handler for this particular button. Now let me go and start that. And I can say Sarvar. I say hello, and says hello Sarvar. I think I chose a very bad font. So let me just take away this font from, I don't really like this font. Let me go and set it to default. Okay. Yeah. Any questions so far?
No questions now.
So I can say this one, and says hello, and so forth. Okay, good. So I hope that was kind of informative. Again, this is you do the things in manually. Okay. So let me this one. I can do the same thing from this panel. What I need to do is I have to say create listener here, and which sort of listener you want. There are multiple different events that can occur with this button. And the first one is the action listener. It is responsible for this action to be performed, right? So you see that it basically does exactly the same thing that I did here. It goes and creates you this anonymous class, which implements action listener, and you have to go and write things this way. Okay, if this particular if handler, okay, can be is reused, then you don't need to create an anonymous class. You can create an inner class. So how you create an inner class? So inside the same class, you're going to create private, right, class, and you can call it greet handler, greet button handler, and you say implements action listener. It implements action listener, and you can, let me just remove that. Right. right? So let me go and copy that thing here into there. And instead of going and re-implementing the same thing, what I can do is I can create a variable, one variable, greet button handler, say handler, new greet button handler, and I can simply add that here. And if I have another button, I can add the same handler to that button as well. So this way I don't need to go and repeat the same thing over and over again. I got a different button, maybe greet button greeting 2, and I just want to do this button exactly the same thing, or maybe slightly different thing, depending on the properties, like the certain action, the way how you, I mean, you can go and, this is a class, right? You can go and create a constructor for this class and then pass different configurations to this handler, okay? And then create different instances of this handler, okay? Without re-implementing this whole thing, entire action over and over again. And you can simply pass this different versions of your handler or different instances of this handler into your different buttons, okay? So this way you can kind of save a little bit space and do all this thing. Good thing about inner class is that inner class has access to the instance methods of the outer class, okay? So these are instance variables, and this inner class has access to those things. Is it clear?
Yes, clear.
Okay, so if it's clear, then let me show you one example, and I'll leave the rest for you to do yourself. So I already showed you the calculator, so let's do this thing together, okay? So how do you want to do this thing? Do you want it to do using GUI design tool, or you want to do it programmatically?
I think programmatical will be better for us. No?
Okay, so let's do it programmatically then, okay? So it's going to be a little bit, let's run it anyway. Let's do it programmatically. So before we go and look into this particular UI, we have to kind of split it into small sections, right? So small like places where we would like to, how we're going to organize those things, right? So first of all, we're going to see some label here. And we got what? We got
checkboxes.
Checkboxes, right? And then we got a one row here. We got a grid with 2 cells, right? And in one cell we got a text box. So first of all, look into this as a grid, right? So we got 2 grids here. Sorry, we got a big grid. So let me just draw it and then formulate it for you. So you have to just break it down into small sections. So let me draw it here. So we have a plan, right? So we don't go and hit the keyboard immediately. We look into the user interface and try to plan it. So how we would plan it?
I think we should first of all create left side after the center side and then right side, yes?
Yeah, we have this section and this section, right?
Yes.
So this kind of resembles us what? So we got 2 sections, so we can go and set, we have a border layout. So in the border layout, we have this region, how this region is called. How this region is called? It's called East, right? So please watch the lecture, so you're going to learn. And this is called, you can call this part as center. So we got 2 regions, right? So in the border layout, we got 5 regions. We can use these 2 regions of the border layout for these components. So now what we have here, we have, again, we have some vertical stack from this one. So we have 2 options. We have 3 options here. We can use, so in this particular thing, let me go and check myself as well. If So this is the root and this is the flow layout. Yeah, flow layout doesn't have. Yeah, so we have two options here. So yeah, in Javafx is slightly different, but here we have two options. So the first option is for these buttons to be in a vertically ordered. So first option is box, right? So it has to be some sort of a vertical box, right? So we have to create a vertical box, and in this box, things should be stacked in this way. The other one is grid. So it's grid layout. Box is a container. Grid layout is a layout manager, right? So we have 1 column and 4 rows. So we can go and use grid layout, no problem. Box kind of, it has some other properties as well. Well, you can look into the lecture and then you can find out. We can use grid layout, and in the grid layout we have like 1 single column and 4 rows, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Now take a look into this part section of it. So what do you see here?
I think we here have 5 columns and 1 row. Oh, no.
No. So we have
3 rows.
So we have a grid with
3 rows, yes.
3 rows, right? So note that we can nest containers, right? So this is typical label. This is inside this. What is this? It's just a flow, right? Flow layout, right? Right?
Yes.
So this thing itself is just agreed with. Let me just go and write down the specifications of the grid. So we got 4 rows and 1 column. Here we have a grid, and this grid is how many rows and how many columns? 3 rows, 1 column, right? You agree with me?
1 column, you say?
Yeah, this is just 1 column, right? So now inside this here, we have another grid. This is an inner grid, right?
Ah, yes, I got it.
And this inner grid has 1, 2, 3, yeah. How many? 5 columns, right?
Yes.
5 columns. So it's another grid layout. It's going to be a little bit time consuming, but I'll just give you the idea, okay? And that you have to understand. So it's 5, right? 5 columns. So 1 row, 5 columns, right? Now take a look. This is just a J area box. This is just the one particular control. Take a look into this particular checkbox. It is also inside a grid, right? How this grid should be arranged?
3 rows, 2 columns.
Yeah, 1 column, 3 rows, right? Okay, 3 rows, 1 column, right? Is it clear now? So we just did things. We could actually do all of these things with grid only. Like we could replace this with a border and everything. We could do all that stuff without grid. But I want you to experiment with other layouts like flow layout and border layout as well. So let me go and start doing it. Okay, I think anyway, let's start. Let's give it a try. Okay, if it's going to take a lot of time, then maybe I'll just give you the idea and then you continue. Okay, so is it clear so far?
Yes, clear.
Yes.
So So just clear all the drawings. So I'll go and create, so how do you call it? Problem checkbox and radio frame. So I'll create a class, call it checkbox, or let me call it simply problem2 frame. Okay, so it's a frame, extends JFrame. So first of all, let me go and define problem frame constructor. And the first thing is I'll go and set the title. So I'll say problem to something like that. And the second is I would like to set my root layout. So what is my root layout? As I said, it's a border. I'll call it border layout. Okay, so what I want here now? Inside the border, I want these buttons, right? So I want these buttons. So okay, I will. Now I need to create them using a for loop, or don't do this using for loop. Okay, it's bad. Let me go and say btn OK private. So let me just put it here. Oh. So it was J button btn cancel private J button btn setup private J button and let's say help, right? So now we need to go and create all these things and add them, but we have to add them into some grid. So we're going to create a JPane, JPanel, and let's say PNL buttons. So I'll go and create JPanel, PNL buttons, and I'll say new JPanel, and I'll say PNL buttons set layout, and this is going to be what? A grid layout, and the grid layout takes 4 arguments. So I just need what? 4 rows, single column, and then the gaps between the buttons. So let me go and put some gaps between it. So 5, 5. Oh, grid layout. Right, so we got 4 rows, 1 column, horizontal gap, and vertical gap. So now I set the layout to my panel. What I need to do is I need to go and create these buttons. So J button. Okay. So this is cancel. And this is setup, which is setup. And okay, so we got objects for these things, and we just need to add them into our panel, right? So how do we add it? So we say panel buttons, and then btn OK, and add btn cancel, and setup, and then help. Okay, now our panel is ready. Now we have to add this panel into into our main layout. So I'll go and add PNL button, and I would like to add that to where? To the west, to the east part of my window. Okay, so now I go and create another panel, a panel. Oops. And I call it main. And I go and say jpanel PNL main. Yeah, wait a sec. PNL main is equal to no. All of these things is nonsense. You don't have to do this. I don't have to do this thing, right? So why don't you stop me? Yeah, I already declared all these things here. Why I'm just declaring all that stuff again? Yeah, that makes sense to me. jpanel, and here goes my code, which is for this half of this whole thing, right? For this half of this whole thing, right? So everything that goes here, and I'll say add PNL main. And I have to say, I'm going to add it into the central region of this one. Okay, good. So let me go and start it and see if it's going well. Because again, if I'm doing things programmatically, I can only see them after compile, right? It's kind of a little bit annoying, but still, the other way, I mean, there's no other way I can see what it actually looks like. Okay, if I'm not using a designer. Okay, so now here we go, and it looks as if we want those things, right? So maybe we just want some margin for the panel buttons there. We don't want it to be sticking. So say margin. Does it have any margins? Nah. Get bounds, set border. Okay, again, there should be some method which sets the bound, but anyway, we'll talk about that. So it is basically the same. So we have these buttons aligned nicely, okay, on the right hand, and we would like to put things here in the between. So we start with what? So we want a grid here, right? A big grid with 3 rows here. So let me go and put that big grid here. So I'll go and put this grid. Yeah, wait. I don't need to do it here. I have to do it here. So I'll say PNL. It's main. Its layout should be new grid layout. And how many rows we want? 3 rows, 1 column, right? And some horizontal gaps, horizontal vertical gaps between the rows and columns. Okay, we set the layout, and the next thing we're going to do is populate that. So what do we have? We have a label, and I'll call it, I don't know, printer. It says printer. and I got inside it, I got another J panel, which contains let's say area, let's say checkboxes. And I got another JPane, which contains combo box. Okay, so I'll go and instantiate all of this. So I'll go and instantiate label printer. I'll say new J label printer, printer, my printer, and I'll add it to PNL main VL PNA, this one. And then I'll create PNL checkboxes, new JPanel. And this checkboxes is another grid, right? So, and this time, this grid is one row, 5 columns, right? And we want some horizontal gap between these things. So here we're going to add all the elements inside the checkbox, right? So let me go and move to the combo boxes panel, right? And combo box set layout, and it's also a grid, or I mean it's a flow layout. We said it's a flow layout because it's just like a flow. And here I just need to add all the controls for these panels. Okay, so let me try now. So I start it. So now it's like it kind of has some resemblance, right? So we got printer, and we got printer, and then we got buttons. So all we need to do is we need to add these things. Okay, I think I won't be doing all that stuff. Maybe I'll just add this second part. And this part, it's kind of you can complete it yourself, okay? Basically, you got the idea. So what you need to do is you need to complete this middle part, right? So in the flow layout, what should I do is, by the way, I heard that if I make changes into this one, it goes and automatically shows those changes. Nope, doesn't have. .NET supports that, by the way. Yeah, it's kind of stupid to assume like this, but in .NET, if you comment the code and then the code is running, the window is running, any change you made to the GUI kind of gets reflected immediately just for your, so you don't have to recompile everything over and over again. But anyway, that's not the case. So let me go into the combo box part. For the combo box part, we have, so we got a label, we got a combo box, a checkbox. So 3 things. So I'm going to say private J label LBL print quality. We got a private and J combo box, and it is a generic one. So combo box, and we call it quality. And then we got J checkbox. Checkbox and print file. something like that. So what I'll do is I'll go and create first the label. And I'll say print quality. And then I'll go and create the combo box. The combo box. And I can add some items to this combo box. Add item, right? So I can say high, medium, low. These are the options that combo box can display to you. And then I got a checkbox, right? New J checkbox, and it is print to file. Okay, so now I can add them to my P&L combo boxes. Add first I add the label. And then I'll add my combo box called quality, and I add a checkbox, print to file. And that's it. So let me start it. Okay. I didn't add it to my main panel, so that's why it's not displaying. So let me go and do this. Okay, so I added the LBL printer. Let me go and add somewhere here, P&L main, add P&L checkboxes, and somewhere here, P&L main, add P&L combo boxes. So now I edit it. So let me go and check now. And here we go. Oops. And we can choose, we can click, and it's kind of similar to what we see here, right? Is it similar? So everything that is remaining in the middle, it's something that you can do, guys, yourself, okay?
Okay.
So you got the idea behind that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So you can, with the grid and border layout and all that stuff, you can go and organize your components, okay, in an appropriate way. But there are more advanced layout managers, okay, and these are box and grid bag. And in the lecture notes, you can find details about those things. They need some auxiliary objects, like some constraint objects to build the layout. So here it's self-sustained, self-contained. You don't need anything else to organize your elements. But with grid bag layout manager, you need additional grid bag layout constraints object to indicate the position in the grid you would like to place your object, right? So for example, let me just give you a quick explanation about that. It's actually explained here there in the lecture, but let me just do it here as well. So if you have a grid, something like that. So you define the size of your grid. So you say, I want, at the beginning, I want, let's say 5 columns and 2 rows, right? So now you want to place your button into this particular cell. So you don't want to place it anywhere else, or you want to put some text box which spans 3 columns. Okay, and it's in the start, it's inserted into the into the second, or I mean third column. It starts from 0, so it's third. So this is some sort of a text box. This is some button. If you want to do this, you have to use grid bag layout manager layout. Okay, and this grid bag comes with an auxiliary object called grid bag layout constraints. So you have to create this object and then specify the constraints, and then ask the the container to accept these constraints, and only then you add the component to it. So you keep modifying this constraint object to communicate where you would like to place your objects. Okay, so check the lecture notes. You're going to find out a lot of examples there, and then see how you're going to go and use this kind of custom positioning. Okay, for box, this box is not a layout manager. It is a container itself. It's like a JPanel, but it's a container on its own. But it's a container which comes with its own layout managing scheme. So box is a container, and you can specify, you can create a vertical box or you can create a horizontal box. For example, if you create a vertical box, then all of your elements will be stacked vertically inside it. Okay, and you can put the box gives you some bunch of placeholder objects, something that it's a GUI component, it's a placeholder, it's invisible. So you can go and put some strut. Strut is a fixed placeholder, it doesn't change its size. Or you can go and put a glue. If you put a glue, then glue can extend, can stretch in the vertical direction. So the size of your buttons will not change. They will be fixed, but the glue will change as the user goes and change the size of your box. Okay, so check this out as well. It's also, you can find a lot of examples in the lecture notes and in the lecture as well. You can go and check this particular one and see how you can go and take advantage of this particular layout managing scheme, or you can go and use the grid bag layout for more advanced structuring. But all in all, you can basically achieve the same thing using just a combination of border layout, flow layout, and grid layout. Okay, you can basically achieve the same thing with just 3 layout managers, but just they need to be nested in a particular order, in a particular hierarchy, if you like. Is it clear?
Yes, clear.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, if you don't have any questions, then please watch the lecture and then do all the remaining labs. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Write an email or post a question in our forum. So I'll be eagerly helping you on that. Okay, so, and in the next lecture, we're going to talk about a different way of building GUIs using Javafx, which is maybe a better, slightly easier way of creating controls, because it's like HTML. Like if you know HTML, then it's going to be easy for you to build a GUI using Javafx. Okay.
We will use HTML?
No, you don't use HTML. You will use Javafx.
Oh,
Javafx has the GUI in Javafx is defined similar in a way which is similar to what you do with HTML. It is not HTML. It has nothing to do with HTML. HTML is a markup language, and it's used to mark up your GUI on the web, right?
Yes.
Javafx provides you similar technology, provides you something that you can do using this markup, right?
Is it like CSS? No. Using
No,
CSS
it provides a CSS as well. I mean, it's not a CSS. It provides all the capabilities from that way of defining GUIs. Think of building a GUI not a programming exercise, but it's mostly about some user experience design. Okay, so you should be able to declare things that you would like to have, rather than going and indicating step by step what you want to do. So building GUIs is not a step-by-step process. It's kind of a combination of things. You want to see this button surrounded by other controls. The button itself doesn't make any sense, right? So when you're building a user experience and you're building a GUI, then you need to consider things in a global scale, right? In the way how they are allocated and arranged in combination with other controls. So, and therefore, like in building GUIs, it's easier to use declarative paradigm than imperative paradigm. That's why we will look into this Javafx. Javafx is extremely popular nowadays. It's just another way of defining GUI. But the only limitation of Javafx is you cannot use this nice and cozy GUI designer that is provided by IDE, by IntelliJ. You don't have something similar to that for IntelliJ. If you want to do drag and drop things, then you have to use Swing. If you want to do things on a code like HTML, then you have to use Javafx. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Anyway, you're going to see that way of doing these things as well, and then you have to decide which one you want. Okay, I'm not going to tell you, oh, you do this or you do that. It's just, again, which way you feel better, you feel more comfortable. Okay. So yeah, if you don't have any questions, then thank you for coming. And I think I recorded the entire RIS and I'll upload it to YouTube. I'll share it in our online chat, so you can watch it if you want to reproduce the same thing on your computer. Okay. So thank you very much, and see you next week.
Okay, goodbye. Thanks, Professor.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.